So for this tutorial, we're going to make a name tag, which will teach you sort of the basic skills you need to start working with TinkerCad. And I've got some examples here that I've already made. I think for the tutorial, we're going to make it a rectangular one. And the first step is to get the dimensions right. So we want to keep the name tag fairly small. Measurements are, you can see down here, are in millimeters. So we are going to make it 5 centimeters or 50 millimeters wide. And if I hit tab, it'll actually just go straight to the other measurements. I can also just click off and then re-click. And we're going to make this, I think we made it 25. So 2.5 centimeters. You can play around with this a little bit. If you want to make yours smaller, that's fine. Bigger is going to take a bit longer to 3D print, so please don't make it too much bigger than these ones. And for height, the height here is 5 millimeters. So I'm going to click on this top box here and make it 5 millimeters. Now, we need to cut out the hole inside. So to do that, I'm going to copy this. So I can just use the duplicate button up here, or if you see here, if I hover over this, Control D will also do it. So, and I'm going to turn this into a hole, and now I'm going to make it a bit smaller. So, so I'm going to just make this 40 and this 15. So that's going to give me a 5 millimeter border all the way around. So now I want to get this centered on here. So I could just eyeball it, but there's a tool in TinkerCAD that's very useful to help me out, and it's called this one, the Align tool. So to use it, I need to select all the shapes I want to align, click on the Align tool, and then I'm just going to click on the two center parts, and I've now got it centered. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up. Let's pull it up 2 millimeters. So it's 2 millimeters above the bottom. And so now that should cut out a indentation in there. Okay, now you can see here that I actually, so maybe let's make that 45 and make that 20. Because I can see that it's a little bit of a wide border otherwise. Okay, so now what I do is I select both of these and I click on group, and so now I have cut out that hole in the inside to make my border. To get the text, I'm going to use the text tool, and you'll see there's lots and lots of different shapes you can use, and I highly encourage you to experiment with them. And so up here in my dialog box, I can type fill. And I can see that it needs to be smaller than this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click on this corner, and that'll keep the proportions while I resize it. So that looks like it'll probably work quite well. If I want to, I can change the font. But I'm going to stick with a nice serif font. And again, I want to make sure that is completely centered. So I'm going to select everything, go over here to align the two parts. Now this is actually, because when I put it on here, it's on the work plane. So this is already inside this other shape, so if I group them, they will all connect together. I'm just going to look, it looks to me like I could make the fill, I'm going to make it 5, and so that way it's the same height as my other shape, and so it's nice and flush. So I'm going to group that together, select it all and group it. So the last step is I need to put a hole in here. So for the hole, I need a little bit of an extra piece. So I'm going to drag this half circle out, And I'm going to have to use the rotate tools now to get it rotated the way I want it. So sometimes to find the right rotate arrow, you kind of have to look around. There it is. So that's the one I want. So I'm going to rotate this up. I'm going to stay on the inside of this circle so that it goes by 22.5 degree increments. And now I'm going to want to rotate it around this way as well. And I'm going to change the dimension. So I'm going to make that 10. And I'll just try to make that 5. And so now I need to line them up. So I'm going to select both of these. And I'm going to go to the Align tool. And we will line them up like that. Now, I can't use the Align tool exactly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this. And I'm going to use my arrow key to just move it out. I'll maybe zoom in on that so I can really see. So I don't, now, see how it's jumping? That's because it's doing what's called snap to grid. So if I go down here to the bottom right corner, I can change that to 0.25 of a millimeter, and that gives me a bit more control over where it's going to go. And I'm going to click on this and make that the same height as everything else. I see what happened. Okay, so what I'm going to do is select this, go here, and I'm just going to line everything up so it's all lined up at the same level. And let's go back to the home. And now if I select both of these, I can group them. And now the final step is to drag a hole out, change the measurements. So let's make it a 3 by 3 millimeter hole. And we're going once more. We're going to select both of them, go up here to Align, and we will align them that way. And then I will just use my arrow key to move that hole where I want it. And then the final step is select everything and group it. And I've got a name tag. Now, in order to send this to 3D printing, the last step is you need to export it as what's called an STL file and attach that to the Google Classroom assignment, and we will get it 3D printed. Ideally, you'll see here it says demo name tag. Ideally, you will give it a name before you export it. And that's it.